Good morning. I'm John Alikevich and I represent Pickett Up's delivery service in this arbitration. Personal responsibility, individual accountability. Whether Homer Pickett, the president and founder of the company, or the newest employee working the warehouse loading our trucks, every employee, every member of PUDS is personally responsible for their actions and held accountable for their actions and decisions that they make. Ms. Carol Brzezinski is no different. Her decision to violate PUDS's absence and tardiness policy on 4 separate occasions within 121 days led to her termination. Termination based on just cause, consistent with the collective bargaining agreement between PUDS, the union, and the local 512, and consistent with the formal absence and tardiness policy and the graduated approach to discipline contained in that policy. On 2 March 2009, PUDS hired A.M. Wexler to serve as the new Human Resources Director for the organization. In that capacity, Mr. Wexler asked Ms. Sanchez, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer for the organization, to provide him with a cost estimate of losses based on absences and tardiness. Up to this point, in March of 2009, the absence and tardiness policy for PUDS was a simple honor-based system. If you missed a day of work, then you made up that day at some later time. If you came in an hour late, you made up that hour, whether today, tomorrow, or sometime later in the future. That's how Mr. Pickett ran the organization. He wanted every employee to have the maximum amount of flexibility possible, and it appeared to be working. However, looking at the figures provided by Ms. Sanchez, the CFO, the losses attributable to the company based on that policy were approximately $200,000 a year. The projected losses over the next 5 years would be $1 million based on an honor-based system because employees just were not making up that time. So Mr. Wexler proposed to Mr. Pickett and Ms. Juliette Nelson Pickett, the Vice President, that they formalize the absence and tardiness policy at PUDS. Mr. Pickett was concerned about maintaining flexibility for the employees, and this policy that was proposed by Mr. Wexler did just that. Employees were required to report their tardiness to their supervisor, make up lost time that same day, and if not capable of making it up the same day, making up the lost time within a 5-day period with prior approval from their supervisor. The other part of the policy that Mr. Wexler proposed was what was a graduated approach to discipline, which was consistent with the collective bargaining agreement. The first time there was a violation of the policy, in other words, you came in late and you didn't report your lateness, you would be counseled orally. The second time you violated the policy, maybe you reported your lateness but you didn't comply with the making it up in the appropriate period of time. That is, you didn't make it up same day, or you didn't make it up within the 5 days, or you didn't get prior approval to make it up later, you would get a letter of reprimand. The third violation of the policy would result in a period of suspension up to but not to exceed 30 days. And the fourth violation would result in termination, a non-discretionary mandatory termination. And by first, second, third, and fourth, they all had to occur within a 6-month period. So if you had a violation in January of and you didn't have another violation until July or August, you would still be on your first violation. So 4 violations within a 6-month period would result in termination. And again, it was a graduated approach to discipline. That's what Mr. Wexler proposed to Homer Pickett. That's what he proposed to the Vice President, Mrs. Juliette Nelson Pickett. Concerned with the lost profits, concerned with the effect that would have not only on the company's growth, but on the profit sharing that existed at the time, Mr. Pickett and Ms. Juliette Nelson Pickett approved the policy. Because at PUDS, 20% of the profits went to the employees. So this lost productivity, these lost profits affected how much money was ultimately paid out to each and every employee. So on 13 May 2009, Mr. Wexler provided Mr. Ashley Dover with a written formal absence and tardiness policy, along with 100 copies to be provided to all the employees. Additionally, Mr. Wexler had a meeting in the warehouse where he called together all the employees. He brought them all in and he briefed them generally speaking, on this new policy. He didn't go through the details line by line, and he didn't explain how the graduated approach to discipline would work, and the facts, the nuances. But what he told them was that this new policy was in effect, that the new policy was available for their review, and that he was available to answer any questions. And where was the new policy available? Mr. Wexler put out that the new policy was in the employee handbook in the reception area to his office. The administrative assistant had it, or they could just look on the desk and open up the employee handbook and see the new policy. It was on the second place it was located. It was a company bulletin board. The policy was there for everybody to review. And the third place was on the company website. So you have 3 locations where the employees could see it, see the new policy. Additionally, this policy was not going into effect until 12 June. So on 13 May, there's a briefing from Mr. Wexler. On 12 June, the policy goes into effect. The key part of the policy is it would hold employees responsible for their decisions, accountable for lost time, thus saving the company money and ensuring that the 20% profit sharing plan continued. At least 20% of the profits went out to the employees. And it gave all the employees notice. I'll stop here.